So I'll hand over to her this time.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath.
It's wonderful. It's sunny, and it's even a little bit warmer than yesterday. So the Lord is blessing us right now. Our lesson study. If we could put the PowerPoint on, please. Thanks. Yes, the choices we make. Am I on the right one?
Yes.
Amen. A very interesting and very practical lesson that this one turned out to be. And so, again, I was blessed just to study it, and it made me really reflect on my life choices and think about how I can make sure that I'm in tune with the Lord. We've read the memory verse already, so I can move on from that. I just want to introduce you to the aim of today, this lesson. And it's for us to understand the nature of choices in relation to God's will and how we should make choices in our lives. And then the impact of our choices, you know, what they will have on our lives. Every choice we make has an impact on our lives, yes? And it's just to become more conscious of that. We might think we know all of this, but it's good to review something every now and again and see what it has to say to us and what more it has to teach us. So to start off, I like to really look at the memory, at the title first, and then don't take away too much sun. I just love the sun. I know I want both. Don't lock it all away.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, yes, you suffer from having the sun in 2 ways. So I'd like us to look at the title. And if you would just call out what words come to mind when you look at this title. What words come to mind when you look at this title? Just call them out.
Choices.
Choices.
We.
Sorry?
We.
Me.
We.
Free will.
Free will.
Oh, sorry.
And someone else, some more choice, some more words that come to mind. Decisions. Options. Sacrifice. Consequences.
Effects.
And effects. Right, so we'll stop there. Lovely. Got you thinking. So, who said free will? Do you want to just tell us what you're thinking about when you said free will?
God's given us free will to choose, and sometimes we make the wrong choices, sometimes we make the right choices. But free will is about love, I believe. Okay? He loves us, so he gives us the free will to choose. Though he wants us to choose the right path, he doesn't want us to be robots.
Yes.
So we need to choose to love him.
Amen. I like the way you put that because it really tells us the nature of God, how loving he is. Thank you. Who said sacrifice? Do you want to tell us what you were thinking of?
Sometimes we need to make some choices in life, right? In my case, as a student, like sometimes I don't know, you want to go out to some movie, but you need to study, like you need to sacrifice something.
Yes, yes. And choices sometimes put you in that place. Oh, and you have to compromise and give up something. And it's a bit tough sometimes. Thank you, thank you. Who said options?
In order to make choices, it Yes, so that there are different options, there are different things to choose from,
Yes.
different ways to go. So yeah,
It's full of that. It's kind of almost like a minefield because there's all these alternatives. And if there are too many alternatives, it begins to get on the mind. I find shopping a bit difficult now, going into Asda or Aldi or whoever. It's just too much now. It's just too much now. I just need 3 things on the shelf. So I'll have that one, or I might have. But no, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the same thing. I can't take it anymore. So, you know, I'm trying to just go in and take the one thing each time, the same type, and just come out. Just decisions. Who said decisions? Okay.
Again, the choices, when you've chosen, you've made the decision to choose this way or that way.
Yes.
So it involves a lot of thought, a lot of prayer.
Oh, it should. Oh, it should.
Yes.
Because once you've made the decision, it's like when you're on the motorway and you have to get off at a certain exit. And if you're unsure, once you've made the decision, when you get off at that exit, it might be another 40 miles before you can come back on if you've made the wrong decision. And that's 40 more miles that you didn't plan to do. That can create a lot of problems for you. It can make you late or never arrive. So the decision can take you in a direction that you can actually not always pull out of immediately. You might be able to pull out of it at a later date, but not immediately. And sometimes we don't realize how much some of our decisions are going to hold us in a place, sometimes for a lifetime, you know?
So that's linked to consequences as well.
Yes.
Consequences with the decisions that we make.
Yes, and we have to live with some of those. Some of those we can put away and eventually they can go away, but some are permanent and unmovable. Who said we?
It was me. I want to look at it.
Yes.
Well, when you said we've all got to make choices.
Yes.
We've all got to know which choice, which way we're going to go. Is it gonna be my choice, or am I gonna rely on the Word of God to help me to make the right choice?
Yes. So it's really, that's a great way of looking at it because it's a collective thing, as in there's nobody in this room who's never had to make a choice, am I right?
Yes.
There's nobody sitting in here this morning saying, what are they talking about? This choice thing, I've never done it. So we are all in this thing. We all make choices, whatever they are. Some choices people know about, and some things only God knows about from us. But everybody here, even children, will choose which sweetie they want and which sweetie they don't want, or whatever they make a choice of. And as soon as they're starting to make choices, we smile, because they're beginning to learn how to be independent. But then when they start making the wrong choices, then we're in trouble. How to sway them in the right direction. So choices are really important in our lives. And when I thought about the word, the title, I thought about the word decisions, which someone has talked about, options. I talked about power, the power to make choice. You know, sometimes you can have your choice taken away from you, and you can be held to ransom, and you can't make a choice, and that power has gone from you, either permanently or for that moment in time. And that's pretty painful when someone tells you that you cannot make that choice and you want to, and it's because they say so, or they have created the circumstances to forbid you to do that. And then I put right or wrong. And some of our choices are between right and wrong, good or bad. They're not all. Some of them is about which colour dress to wear or which pair of shoes to put on. But there's other choices that are about, is this right or is this wrong? Which way is it? So life seems to be made up of constant choices. And I read in the booklet, you know, we're always having to make choices. We have to decide what is best every step of the way. And some choices are informed, and we know the two options, but at times we have no idea, and it's too late to find out the details on each one, yet still our choices define our lives. So even when we've made a choice that we didn't really know what we were doing, that choice can still define our lives. That's it's quite challenging, quite frightening sometimes, really, that it could still have a real lasting effect on our lives, even though we made that choice without being really informed about it, but we had no choice at the time. So we have to think very carefully about that. Now, the question that came to me on top of this is, what do the choices that we make have to do with serving God? Turn to someone and have a chat about that. Sorry, my brother?
Yes, I was saying, like, last week's lesson, you said talking about time to choose, a time to
yes,
do,
time.
and a time to do, and when talking about choices, the same thing. You know, time to be serious, a time to plant, a time to reap, or a time to, you know, so we got to know what we're doing can also affect our life.
Yes, you've got to know when it's time to do something and choose to do the thing.
I mean, sometimes it's always right, you know, choose the right thing.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you. And just turn to someone and just talk about, what do the choices that we make have to do with serving God? Talk for a couple of minutes.
So like you said, you need to pray and remember that whatever decision then, or whatever we're going through, we're not on our own, because God said, just talk to me about it, and He will give us a clear way of seeing and helping us to make righteousness.
Okay, let's share some of that. None of the mic? No mic? Oh, you're charging. Let's just share some of what we've been talking about. What do the choices that we make have to do with serving God?
We said that God is a God of order, and sometimes, well, not sometimes, we should always pray to Him and ask Him for guidance, because we could He could ask us to do something and we then take it on and do it in our own strength, but He doesn't want that. He wants to work with us, and so we should always seek
His guidance. Yeah. Amen. Thank you.
I think we make the choices according to our knowledge. If we doesn't know about God, then we can't make the choice. You know, we just go on what is random.
And our lives will be not ordered in the way that it could be. So God brings order to our lives and order to our choices.
Yeah.
I think when we don't know God, when we don't, the choice, if we could reflect back when we didn't really know God and trust Him, He does guide us. You know, it's like people often say that my mind told me to do such and such.
Yes.
Was it your mind telling you, or was it know that we know God? It was His Holy Spirit. Because, you know, in Isaiah says that you hear a voice behind you saying this is the way. So that whether we know God or not, God does guide us because He created us. I also believe that there's probably like a GPS, a sat-nav, you know, spiritually, sat-nav in human beings to do the right thing. Yes, sin causes us to do the wrong, to go against the right. So when I reflect back and see, wow, it was the Holy Spirit who impressed me to do such and such, then next time, because I believe that the mistakes I make is not following the guidance of the Holy Spirit, but God gave me a second chance. So Samuel heard God call him, but he didn't know God. And then Eli eventually advised him that if you hear the voice say this, so when I learned that when the voice tells me to go left and I go right and I make a mess of it, next time when I hear the voice saying go right, but now, because I know God, I give Him praise for His guidance. So I do believe that God, in His mercy, guides us when I don't know.
Yeah, God does guide us when before we know it. He said, while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us.
Exactly.
So you're right in that respect. And then it's for us to decide to accept that guidance. And I always believe that one test of whether something is from God or not is whether it's good.
Yeah.
Because the devil will also guide you. You hear people say, I didn't mean to kill her or kill him. They didn't. But the devil got in there and made them do this thing. And they didn't mean to, because God's Holy Spirit was saying to them, don't. And they still went ahead. So the devil does try also to guide us. But if the thing is bad, if the thing is wrong, if the thing is evil, we know where it's coming from. If the thing is good, it's righteous, it's the right thing. Sometimes doing the right thing is challenging for us. And we don't want to do it, so we turn it into a bad thing and say, I'm not doing that. But it's just because we don't want to.
And so I believe it's knowing God. You see, there's a difference, you see. Because as you talk about that, I think of Abraham. Abraham knew God. But God told him to do and go around thing, didn't he? If you think to sacrifice Isaac.
Well, you can say it is wrong, but you don't know what the thing that God was planning for.
You see, the thing is, the principle is that it was all about obedience.
Yes.
But when we read the Bible, is that sacrificing children was never a good thing.
Oh no, it was never a good thing, and God never intended for him to do that.
But Abraham had, and so we need to know God.
Yeah.
So that even when he seems to be off the mark, we trust God.
Yeah.
Because it's also about obedience and trust there.
Amen.
So,
and I think, my brother, as you say that that statement, we must learn to trust God, is so difficult for us. And we say it, and we mean it when we say it sometimes when we're sitting here in church. But by the time we get in the car and head home, or get on the bus and head home, it's hard. And we have to really pray continually to develop that strength, to trust God. Like the song says, I trust in God wherever I may be, upon the land or on the stormy sea, to be able to do that. So, serving God and choices are connected then. Our choices should be within God's will. Yes? Our choices will tell us whether we are in God's will or not. So we have to look at the choices that we've made in our lives and say, was that one within God's will or not? Was that within God's will or not? And make those adjustments in our lives where we see the choices, some of the choices not being in God's will, because serving God is about making choices according to His will. Am I right? And so we have to be strict on ourselves. We have to police ourselves.
I suppose, like Brother Reed was talking about a time for everything, and I was thinking, I read somewhere recently that obedience is the highest form of worship.
Amen. Amen.
Obedience. And so so there is a time to plan. And so I think of Daniel.
I'm going to stop you there, brother.
Okay, that's okay.
I'm going to stop you there. Now you need to get your quarterlies out, and let's look at the memory verse, because I'm going to ask you to do something with the memory verse. I'm going to exegete the memory verse, and what I'd like you to do is you want to get at the heart of its meaning. So you need to sit with someone, one or two people, and I want you to look into this text and explain what's going on, what the meaning is. So find out who is speaking, find out to whom they're speaking, what about, why, and how does it apply to us today. All right, we've got 3 minutes, so form a group of 2 or 3 and answer those questions as quickly as you can so that we can share. This is basic exegesis we're doing. So who is speaking in this text? To whom? What about? What was going on? So you might have to read more than that one text to identify what was going on. How does it apply to us today? Is it done?
So here we can see
Okay. Okay, let's do some sharing. So who is speaking in this text? Joshua is speaking to who? So how do you know that?
verse 16.
Okay. But you would need to have gone right back to verse 1 of chapter 20, chapter 24, verse 1. Then Joshua gathered all the tribes of Israel to Shechem and called for the elders of Israel, for their heads, for their judges, judges and for the officers, and they presented themselves before God. Yes?
Yeah.
So we know that Joshua is speaking on behalf of, yes? And at times was he speaking purely from himself?
No.
There were times when he wasn't, is it? And then, all right, so he's speaking. What is he talking to them about and why? What's going on?
God gave him when they entered into the
The danger of idol worship.
Okay, so what had happened to them? What was the history here?
They have moved away from the true God and worshiping idols.
of the people around them.
Yes, because they'd come out of slavery in Egypt. 400 years is a pretty hard time to resist. You know what I'm saying? So they gave into that. So they had idol worship in Egypt, and that was in their bones. And they needed to get that out of their lives, but that's hard work. And then now they were heading into the promised land, but it was already occupied. Yes? By the Amorites. And they had their own gods. So what's Joshua doing here? He's preparing them. He's telling them the truth about themselves. Okay? And he's preparing them. So what does he say? What's the significant things that he says there that tells you that he's preparing them?
They need to choose this day.
Yes.
But he also knew that they knew what was right from wrong before.
Yes, he knew. Amen. That he knew. And so he says to them, choose this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. So here we are at this crossroads. It sounds like they had already started to mess about with the Amorite gods. Sounds like it, yes? Because I don't think he would level such a statement if something wasn't going down. So everybody knows that in the Egyptian times they had gone over to the other gods. But now that we're in this land where, and I'm always fascinated that God gives you something, but he puts people there and you have to fight them to get it. That's another whole story altogether. But they got there, and instead of staying focused on God, they were being drawn into the gods of the Amorites. And so he's saying to them, okay, this is it now. Either you stay with what your fathers had, which some of you are, or you go after what's here, which some of you are. So he's giving them the real clarity on what their current situation is.
When I read it at home, I was fascinated by using the word evil. It seems evil to serve the Lord. So I was looking it up in the Keyword Bible. And in the NIV, which I've got here, it uses the word undesirable. And in the keyword it was saying it could mean displeasing. So it's backing up what you're saying that some of them were serving this, some of them were serving that. So the thought of serving God seems undesirable, displeasing, almost like,
well, it wasn't.
He's setting out these choices.
Yes, it wasn't the fun that they were having.
Yeah, and when it said, and when I looked at the word choose, it said, in the keyword as well, it's saying, take a keen look at through thorough examination. It's not an arbitrary whim.
No.
So what he's saying to me is, it's a line in the sand, isn't it? It's a very serious thing he's putting to them to make a choice.
Yes.
Not saying just choose lightly, because you can't choose God lightly. Because he knows, what they're facing to come out of 400 years of slavery, as you said. So.
And these gods, from the Egyptians to the Amorites, the service of these gods was kind of fun. There was things that they were able to do that they wouldn't be able to do once they decided to serve God.
Yeah.
The true and living God. They'd have to put it away. So there was a lot of things to give up. We have to admit that we have those same problems.
Of course.
Okay?
I suppose that because one of the things, the other clarification there is these gods that you're serving, They can't hear, they can't speak, they can't do anything for you. So why give them God's praise? You know, because it says someone cut a tree with an axe, someone fashion it, and give you a dumb idol that doesn't do anything for you.
I hear you. And so what I'm wanting to recognize is that there are times when we have to take stock of who we are and where we are in terms of God. Whether we are with our forefathers in Egypt serving their gods, or we're with the Amorites within whose land we live serving their gods, or whether we're with Joshua serving the true and living God. We have to make some choices because we get baptized, we come to church, but sometimes we are still serving our other gods. Okay? And we have to really take stock because as Joshua says here, choose you this day whom you will serve. Everybody's got to make a choice. So I wrote down for this that, go on.
Also, I think also in this statement, in the memory text, where Joshua said, "But as for me and my house," he didn't like say to them, choose. Not only that, he also emphasized that he was going to choose the right way.
He told them what his choice was.
Yeah.
So he gave them an example and he told them what his choice was.
Yes.
So the freedom, that free will that we talked about, he said it's your choice. You're free. You're not going to do that, but I've made my decision. And my decision, my house, we're going to serve the Lord. And you are free to choose exactly what appeals to your heart. Nobody's forcing anybody here. You know, and that's what's amazing about God, that he gives us this choice. And so I wrote down also that Joshua was speaking to all the tribes of Israel about all that the Lord had done for them. And Joshua was now old, and this was his farewell sermon and counsel. He wanted them to be aware of the choices they were facing and the decision that he had made for himself. So he wanted them to have those two things. To be aware that they had some choices to make and that he had made the decision from those choices. And this was his decision. And at the end of the day, it applies to us because we all must choose. Even when we're sitting in the house of God, we still have to choose whether we're going to serve God or not. Because we can just be coming here for the joy of it.
I think the fact that Joshua reminded them of the history of how God had led them in the past.
Exactly.
So they could make an informed choice.
Informed choices.
God's done this, surely he's faithful and he will continue to do it if we make the right choice.
That's it. And I like that, my sister, pointing out that it was an informed choice that they were being asked to make. Because they had experienced the gods of Egypt. They had experienced the true and living God parting the Red Sea, feeding them with manna, all of that bringing them through. And then experiencing now the Amorites' gods. So they could now choose. You could now choose. Because you can't just dilly-dally between all of them and dabble in all of them. You have to choose. With God, you have to make a choice. You can't dabble. You won't have it. Okay? So now we're going to do some group work. I'm going to split you into 5 groups. 5 groups. I'm going to give you 1 day each for you to study for 10 minutes. And then